Okay, the second section that we're going to go over is the results section. And the first thing that we have to do that's a little different than the method, we actually have to go over how you're going to actually work with the data here. I have created on the discussion board the data file, hoping that all of you can attempt to do this when we get the competency later on in the end of the semester. You will be asked to run some statistics, and so taking a simple data file like this and being able to do some simple statistics will be part of what I test later on as individuals. Now you can hopefully all do it as a group and make sure that everybody gets the right answer for things. So with this particular data, if you pull up that file, column A I believe is the emotional lonely score, column B is the social lonely score for each of the 6 people. Notice each row represents one subject here. So the idea here is, or I guess the first question is, what is it we want to do with this data and how are we going to do it? I would put to you that there are 3 main questions that we're going to want to answer with this data set. 3 main questions. So question number 1, was our sample, and certainly we did have a sample here, was our sample emotionally lonely? So question number 1, was our sample emotionally lonely? So the way I like you to write your results section is you start off with a question here, and you can actually say maybe in paragraph 1 what the data management procedures were. Could you figure this out? The data management procedures were that subjects actually scored their own data. They reversed the key elements, and certainly you'll have to put the reversal actually back in the method section. You'll have to talk a little bit about which items were reversed when you collected the data for the social and emotional loneliness scale. And then what you can put in the first paragraph of the results is you could say that subjects did reverse these items, and then subjects did get mean for emotional and social loneliness. They got these scores, each subject 2 scores, to the professor of the class, and the professor created an Excel file with 2 columns, one column being what emotional loneliness and the other one being social. So that'll be paragraph number 1. That would be the data management paragraph. Paragraph number 2, you kind of get into what is the question, what is the statistic we did to answer the question, and then what did the results basically say. So let's start with the first question that I asked there. Is this sample emotionally lonely? So that is question 1. What we would need, and you'll probably write that at the beginning of paragraph 2, was this sample emotionally lonely? Can you figure out what we would do with the data to get that answer? Was this group emotionally lonely? Hopefully you were able to figure out the way you would do this is you would actually just get the mean of that first column, the mean of the emotional loneliness column. And so the idea is you can either do it by hand or you can have the computer do it for you. You may want to figure out how to get the computer to actually do this for you and get a mean. And then the idea is, remember this was a 1 to 4 scale, I believe it was? Was it 1 to 4? No, 1 to 5. And then on the basis of that, and maybe looking at the original article that I distributed to you last week with the psychometrics, basically make a statement that if the numbers are very low, that this group doesn't have a lot of emotional loneliness. So that's what you would want to do in the first paragraph. Paragraph 2, you'd want to take the next step and say, well, was our sample socially lonely? Once again, how would you answer that? You would say you did some descriptive statistics, you got the mean. Once you get the mean, see if you can make an argument that this group is either socially or emotionally lonely. And make that statement as well. Use the mean to figure that out. So that might be paragraph number 3. The fourth and final question would be a little different. Question 1 was this group emotionally lonely? Question 2, was this group socially lonely? Question 3, were these 2 scores related to each other? Is it true that people who are more socially lonely were also more emotionally lonely? So to answer that question, was there a relationship between social and emotional loneliness, you'd actually have to do a different statistic. The statistic you would have to do would actually be a correlation. You'd have to do a Pearson product correlation to answer this. And so the idea is, and I tried to build in the steps here for you, The idea is to take these two columns and see if you can run this. Now, I think I typed up the instructions for you, but I'm going to do them because I'm looking at the thing right now. In order to do this, what you have to do in your Excel file is, let's see, I'm going to go to my home base here, and then I'm going to go to formulas. And under formulas, there's right next to math and trig, more functions, and I'm going to click it on statistical. And if I go down under confidence intervals, there's a, it says COREREL, correlation. And under that, I'm going to type in array 1, A1 dot dot A6 to say go down the first column, and in array 2, B1 dot dot B6. And when I do that, you should be able to see right under there a correlation. And what I'd like you to do is to get that correlation and figure out if that's a good correlation, a bad correlation, and what that correlation means. And so the idea is, for the results section, that you basically are going to do 4 paragraphs here. Paragraph 1 is going to be the data management. The data management describes that once the surveys were distributed, how were they actually scored and collected and so forth. And so back in the method section, you describe how it was a 10-item survey. Items, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were reversed, and then scores can be obtained for emotional and social loneliness. A higher score means more loneliness on each one of these. But in the results section for the data management, you can say that the data were collected. Participants scored their own emotional and social loneliness score by reversing items and getting their own means. They submitted those to the instructor, who then created this data sheet in Excel with all 6 subjects giving him data for this. That's the data management. Paragraph 2, you need to go into the first question. Was our sample emotionally lonely? What was done to figure that out? A descriptive analysis of the mean was computed. Get your mean and then make a statement. If your number is really low, around 1 or so, you probably say our group was not emotionally lonely. Next paragraph, number 3, you say, was our group socially lonely? You say what you did in order to answer that. And then you show the results and you give a statement on what it means. There'll be no statistically significant or none here, it's just the mean. And finally, in the last paragraph, the question needs to be raised, is there a significant relationship? Are those who are more socially lonely also more emotionally lonely? And then you need to say a correlation was run in order to figure this out. And you need to compute the statistic. Now, if you're really good, you might be able to figure out if this result is significant or not, but that might be something I bring in next week. So for a week from now, the idea is to do your best shot at a draft for this. If you want to send me one over the weekend, that's fine. If not, that's fine as well. And give it your best shot, and hopefully you can post something good. Hopefully this makes sense. Thank you very much.